Weege Show here. We are back. It is off season. I don't necessarily have to do videos during this, but I mean, really, is motocross or any sort of motorsport the type of thing that you do based on like what it says on paper you should or should not do? No, this is a passion thing, right? So we're into what we're into. And what I'm into today is actually returning to the promised land, the old shop that I was supposed to work in throughout the 2020 year, and then 2020 got messed up. Are you guys aware of that? Have you heard that? Yeah, it's our party place. Lake Norman Party Rentals. If you're gonna have a shop you're gonna work in, you wanna make sure there's a party supply store right next door to that, especially on a Friday, like right now. So let's have fun with this. Weege Show, of course, brought to you by the good folks at Honda and that all-new CRF 450R. There is a prototype of that machine that was raced by Tim Geiser to now the MXGP World Championship. First year on that bike, but second year in a row for him. Third year outright in that class, and 4 times now Geiser a world champ. This is where I work. It's where I'm supposed to, at the Art of War Suspension Technology shop. But the real, this is like, there's some stuff here, and this is Johnny. You do the suspension stuff here?
You showed up for work again?
Yes, I know.
2 times this year.
2 times since March that I've been here. I came 1 time in like July when my kid was in a camp right down the street, and then today. But you have all this technology here to make suspension and stuff. There's probably top secret things I'm not supposed to show. Speaking of Honda, Phoenix Honda, are you building stuff for Phoenix?
Of course.
Building stuff for Phoenix. But this has been very difficult. I actually walked out to my vehicle in complete frustration. I don't really know how. Actually, this GoPro mount thing won't even let me shoot this. So I've got 2 technological problems here. I don't know how coffee works, Johnny. These Keurigs have always been above. See, you said I have to get the lights on, but the lights don't turn on.
Yeah.
How do you?
Well, we did this last time you were here.
I should remember 6 months ago.
9 months ago or whatever it was. You open it.
You have to open it first?
Okay.
So all right, so now we got blinking lights.
Now push it like you would push a normal button.
Why
Don't smash it.
I'm not showing on my video. It really gets mad. Wait. So it was a very careful, you have to press it in a certain way.
You did it.
I was pressing it before and it wasn't working. I was pressing buttons and it wasn't working. Wouldn't pressing harder get the job done?
Yeah.
Anyway, there's been a lot of off-season news that's happened over the last couple weeks. First of all, where will Malcolm Stewart go? That was one of the last dominoes to fall. Malcolm Stewart, we thought he might go to Monster Energy Star Racing Yamaha, then he didn't because they announced that the team was going to be Aaron Plessinger and Dylan Ferrandis on 450s, and then all of a sudden, a couple weeks later, Mookie's on the team. So they hired a third 450 rider, and they did not hire the 250 rider on their team already who had to go to a 450. That's Shane McElrath. They hire Mookie instead. Where's McElrath going to go? I'd heard it could have been, well, this is an RMX Suzuki, but Hep Suzuki, I think, was rumored. I think he really wanted to go to JGR, but we don't know what the status of that team is at all. So he ends up going to MotoConcepts, kind of taking the place of Mookie, who left the team. And then I talked to Tony Alessi on Monday. I was wondering if there was any drama of why Mookie would leave a team that he was riding really well for. But he said, our goal is to do what's best for the rider. And if the rider wants to go to a factory team for whatever reason, maybe it's money, it could be anything with a factory team, then we're okay with that. So Mookie's a factory Yamaha rider because Star is now the factory Yamaha team. McElrath is now on MotoConcepts. They're bringing back the riders who were already there, like Justin Hill and Vince Friese, but they picked up another guy. They added Benny Bloss. So they are nothing if not job creators over there at MotoConcepts, Bullfrog Spas, SmarTop Honda. So, you know, this is hilarious. These are 2 teams that I used to love to make fun of. I mean, look, Star Racing was terrible back in the day, and the guys on the team were not happy that Mathis and I would make fun of their horrible results. Yeah, that's like 8 years ago in the past. They've been the best 250 team. If there's anyone that's going to solve this Yamaha 450 and Supercross thing, you know anything about that? You ever worked on a Yamaha 450 Supercross? Never. You were never involved with that? There's been a couple of teams, including the factory Yamaha team itself, that has not found the expected success, especially in Supercross, on the Yamaha 450. A couple other teams that I will not name that have also tried. Maybe Star Racing has the secret sauce, or maybe they just have Dylan Ferrandis, and maybe he'll solve it. The real interesting thing is that you have Plessinger on the factory team, and now back to Star, but now Star 450. So that's your real control group in this experiment. Anyway, I used to make fun of Star. They're awesome now. I can't say anything bad about them. And we've all made jokes about crazy hot tub guy Mike Genova and Tony Alessi and the whole Alessi group. But you can't make fun of the SmarTop MotoConcepts team anymore. They get great results. They give riders jobs. They're a solid outfit. So it really shows what can be done in this sport. And you just got to give it time sometimes. But nothing is ever set in stone. And it's funny, when I was a kid, speaking of Honda, Johnny, you probably went through this. When you were a kid, it was like Honda was going to be the best at everything all the time, always. They would always win. You didn't want them to be. No. Were you rooting for the underdog?
My parents' dealership didn't sell Honda.
Ah, that would do it. That would do it.
They were dominators, and we didn't want them to be.
When I was a kid, I had a Suzuki 50, so I was convinced that Suzuki was the best and the world was someday going to learn. And then every year, the world would not learn that, and Honda would just keep winning. These days, it's different. You really do see this up and down of who's on top and then who's struggling and who's trying to come back. It's a lot more competitive in so many ways, and I think that's really cool. So when you look at the quick, 10-year history of Star Racing and MotoConcepts, and that they're real players, and now factory Yamaha's 450 effort is Star, that is an amazing story. So good stuff for those guys, and that's really been the headline, I'd say, over the last couple of off-season stories here in the last week. And then we'll see where the rest of it shakes out. Like I said, I don't know what JGR's plan is. I don't know what Suzuki's plan is, but at least you get a couple of little updates there on what's going on in the sport. And then a little bit deeper than that, I'm going to point to an article that you would have to read. I know it's a big ask. You could even print it out. Johnny, you printed out a schedule and then you threw it in the trash because you were off by one date, which really hurts me. See, here's the difference between me and him. I have no organization. I have no planning. I am OCD about not being OCD. This is what you do. You have plans. You have charts. You have, if your paper has one thing off, you throw it in the garbage.
You would rather be inaccurate so you could save money.
Yes, on paper.
But, yeah.
Paper and ink. In fact, I wouldn't even put it and print it on paper in the first place. I would just try to put it up here and then forget 9 times before remembering for the 10th. That's the difference between him and me. Oh, my coffee's ready. All right. It worked, but I needed your assistance for that. So what I think is interesting is when you break down how this sport is going, there's actually a change at the base level that people aren't seeing. And it's how these teams are going to approach their 250 talent coming through the ranks. Now, if you're Star Racing, by the way, you have a 450 team up here, and then you also have this amateur group and 250 team, and they are loaded. I mean, they are picking up a ton of amateur riders while they're developing this 450 team. That team's doing it the typical way, which is signing all these young riders. I think you're going to start seeing a change with the way the other teams start to approach it. Everyone went so far in with this, we have to have an A rider and a B rider, and then maybe a rider in the wings before that. When you have 5 or 6 manufacturers, each having 2 or 3 amateur prospects, that ends up being so many riders that it becomes impossible. It's just simple math. You're not going to have 15 can't miss, unbelievable phenom talents. It's not possible. So we're seeing a failure rate that's pretty high now. I'd say it's 50-50, maybe even worse, of amateurs coming in. Their first 2 years as a pro are okay, but it's not great. And then when they're on factory bikes and factory teams, they're not expecting people to just learn and get top 10s. They're not accepting of that. Maybe they should be. Maybe it would work if they looked at it that way, but they don't. And then those kids get spit off the back, they get dumped, and then another group of riders comes up. So now we've seen a big change, and I think some teams are going to start adjusting the way they do it. When you look at the 250s, there's always a guy looking for a new situation, like McElrath and RJ Hampshire were this year. Those guys are always available. You could spend less money signing them for 1 year and getting wins when they're kind of in their prime than you could developing an amateur for 4 or 5 years just to get to that point. But then you fear that you're going to miss that one awesome talent. So that's where we are right now. I think there's 2 riders that are keeping that old flame alive. Jet Lawrence, no doubt, he's the hottest prospect going. Geico Honda is gone, but factory Honda, they will eventually announce that Jet Lawrence will just race for the factory team on a 250, as will his brother Hunter. That was the one that got away from everybody else. Honda got him, they're not letting him go. And then one other guy I think you need to think of is Austin Forkner, who certainly has the potential to eventually become a dominant force, and he actually was before these injuries kicked in Supercross last year. He almost beat Ferrandis for a Supercross title this year. So there's nothing to sneeze at with the skills of Forkner. If it eventually works out, if he has a really good 2021 season, it would still keep the model alive of, yep, they got him early, they held on to him, and now they're reaping the rewards, and there's nothing anyone else can do about it because they have him and you don't. That's why these teams went so nuts on getting amateur talent, to get it and prevent everybody else from having it. We'll see if it works out for these guys. Here's Dennis from next door coming on in. But I think you're going to start seeing subtle changes in the next couple of years. You'll think back to this video and say, yeah, he said it was going to change, and I think it did. I don't think you're going to see as much amateur attention going on amongst all the other weirdness that we're going to have a fallout from 2020. So that's our Weege Show. We're working on Honda suspension here. Can I help?
No.
No?
Please don't.
Okay, I'll just stick to the coffee. It's brought to you by the all-new CRF 450R from Honda. The prototype of that bike's world champ. Think about it that way. You can go read the 250 article I was talking about on our site, and you can read an interview with Tim Geiser saying, every time I think the Japanese have come up with the best motorcycle possible, they somehow make it better. That's what he said about his prototype machine. He's probably supposed to say things like that, just like I am. Thanks for watching the show.